over there.
Huh?
Who's that guy over there at the end? I haven't seen him in a
I haven't
while.
seen him in a month. Yeah. Been about a month.
You all right?
He's a world traveler.
Guys, ready? Here we go.
I am.
Council workshop meeting Monday, March 2nd, 2026, 6 p.m. Bear,
Here.
Briggs, Coulter,
Here.
Hydrich, Holtmeyer,
Here.
Patke,
Here.
Pepsel,
Here.
Sullentrup. Please
Here.
rise for a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
And to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will all the committee members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the meeting dated February 2nd, 2026? Bear,
Yes.
Coulter,
Yes.
Holtmeyer,
Yes.
Patke,
Yes.
Pepsel,
Yes.
Sullentrup.
Yes.
Make motion.
Second.
Motion by Holtmeyer, second by Coulter to approve. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's approved.
Presentations, capital improvement sales tax.
Okay, good evening. Good to see you all again. I just want to give you, we're going to show you two PowerPoint presentations. We are marketing these as two separate campaigns, as you know. So the first one will be the capital improvement presentation that we've been giving around town and continuing to do. And then the second one will be focusing on the transportation issue. So we have two separate things. We're marketing them as two separate items because they're on the ballot twice, or that way. But anyway, I wanted to kind of just bring you up to speed on what we are doing to promote the taxes, these renewals. And so we will be in our utility bill this month. When the bill comes out, there will be two extra pieces in there, and each one is focusing on information for each of these renewals. So because it's coming out from the city, we can't say vote yes or anything like that, but they're just information type brochures that are trifolds or whatever. So those will be in the utility bills this year, and so that will go to all of our residents here in Washington. And then the committee will be mailing two separate trifolds to all of the citizens in Washington with vote yes. So a lot of the same contact, but doesn't really talk about voting in the first one. This one will, because is being put out by the committee. So that will hit probably mid-March. It's at the printer right now, so we should have that shortly. And then the week before will be two postcards in the mail, one for each item. And those will be mailed to all of our residents. And again, that one in really bold print says vote yes. I'm happy to say that of all the presentations that we've done, we have a list right now of 22 places that we have or will be speaking at, a total of 22 groups. We've not heard any opposition from any of those presentations that we've attended or that we gave. And mostly people have good questions. They understand the importance of the capital improvement. And, we have a lot of history to show with that through the years. However, I've always thought that there's probably some folks who live in Washington that aren't even aware of the transportation because it's been such a long, it's been a long project for 25 years. So this one will renew for 20 years. So anyway, so we've not heard any opposition, and so our motto kind of is, and we'd ask you to participate that in as well, as that where two or more are gathered, you talk about it. So anyway, to make people informed, because there are no races pertaining to the city with elected officials, we want to make sure that people get out and vote for these issues and that we can push this over the finish line. So you could be advocates for us, ambassadors for us, and if you're with family members and friends and having a beer with someone, make sure they know about these two items that will be on the April 7th ballot. And it just needs a simple majority to pass. We don't need any extraordinary margin or anything like that, so it's a simple majority. So do you have any questions at this point? I know you guys have been informed all along with this, but just kind of letting you know what we've all done. So we also will be doing some social media, and that will be coming out of the chamber. And so we'll be doing that, and we have folks who are scheduled then to share and spread that word out that way as well. So Kurt is going to do the presentation on the capital improvement sales tax, and then Darren will be doing the transportation one. So, thank you.
Mayor, members of the council, thank you for letting us come and share tonight what our committee has arrived at and what we are kind of going around trying to talk with folks in the community about. And it's the half-cent improvement sales tax. It's on the ballot on April the 7th. Darren and his crew believes that this will generate about $2.85 million annually. So we were tasked with coming up with ideas for capital improvement for $25 million. We got here, as you know, through the Citizen Committee and spent many, many meetings in here starting last June. Joe and was a member of the committee and working through that to get us to where we are today with this list that was whittled down, negotiated, talked about, and ready to take it out to the taxpayers, or to the voters. Of course, it's no new tax. It is just strictly a renewal. We've been doing this for 37 years, starting in 1989. This capital sales tax has been around that long. And this one, like all the rest, will have a sunset provision on it. So again, we're asking the voters to approve it, come back to the voters in 8 years and show the report card. I think if you look at the report card from whenever we stood before you in 2018, of course, we did the pool complex. That was the big one, got that accomplished. The main stage roof structure. Runzig Field, the work we did out at Runzig has certainly allowed that program to bring in a lot of, baseball tournaments, both regional, state, and national. Those things like the turf, that helps bring folks here. They're spending money in our hotels, and our restaurants, and our communities, and our downtown shops. Our report card continuing, certainly we did some work in downtown Washington, did some work for economic development, working on the airport master layout, did some work in the Oldenburg Industrial Park that is now up and running, but was conceptual when we stood before you, before this board 8 years ago. The fire department, certainly some work we've done for those and doing that. So what did the committee come up with and where are we going? Number one, we heard loud and clear, standalone senior center. Seniors, Merle led the charge, doesn't like the KC Hall, doesn't like it, and so after much discussion, and I think he and some others leading the charge, if we can get the Army Reserve Center and can get that from the United States government, that would be option number one. We've earmarked $2.5 million that would be dedicated to that. Option two, renovate City Auditorium in addition to the others. But the concept is to go to the seniors, go to the people. The seniors are going to have a standalone facility, not to be shared with any other entity or group. And that was very important to them. They're on board. City Auditorium, even if we don't do the improvement with the senior center, $1 million of improvements at that facility. Another big ticket item is the fair improvement of a multi-purpose fairground building. It'll replace the administration building and, where the police department and those folks are now located on our fair, to go with a large year-round structure that's open area for sports and events. I won't call it a convention center, but maybe a mini event center that you could actually have doors big enough to get tractors in, things like that. Also would serve as a severe weather shelter for the fair. So that is for the fair and that project on that. Another area the committee heard a lot of presentations on had to do with Lakeview Park. Soccer, baseball, football. And as we discussed it, when you really look at Lakeview Park, it's 3 generations of our community that are all coming together on the same night. It's the kids playing, it's mom and dad bringing them there, and many, many times it's the grandparents that are following their grandchildren around to watch them. So the improvements that the committee recommended and going out to the voters, $1 million to improve a turf field for soccer to allow them to play more games, bring in more tournaments and events throughout the year. Baseball, certainly their request was greater, but $1.5 million to improve concessions, field improvements, and start a process of upgrading that complex. We know that won't get it done. They know that won't get it done, but at least it's a start. The junior football program, some scoreboards and things for them, and a few more items out at Runzig Field to continue the good work and continuing that structure, that complex, to be just a real nice area for baseball and the things that it brings to the community. Last summer brought home something that nobody was thinking about, but whenever we went with a lot of lack of rain in the fall, and led to the fish kill out at Lions Lake. And I think some of the folks have said, you know what, it's just not deep enough. So the plan is to earmark $1 million towards that, to not only dredge it, but to add fishing piers. It's such a focal point in our community. I mean, everybody's there to make it even more user-friendly. I know there's some talk. Certainly the committee's not in charge of that, but like in Union, they bring in the trout in the winter and let folks start fishing trout in there. So maybe to do that to increase opportunities for anglers. Next one was some work out at Phoenix Center to upgrade the tennis courts and to do a park at maintenance addition building. Downtown, the big item is to take care of the parking lot right next to the farmer's market. If you've ever been down there with all the events, the electric is kind of sad and maybe even dangerous to try to bring that up to speed, because it's another focal point of our community, and it brings people not just from the city, people from outside of the area to our community. And, you know, we talk about it throughout. That's one of the nice things about this sales tax is it's not just paid by the residents. It's paid by everybody that comes to our community and shops, but many of the things we're doing are to help folks that are not just Washingtonians, but people that come to our community, you know, with the ballparks, the parks, things like this, main stage, out at the fairgrounds and doing that. And then a lot of things we're gonna see that aren't sexy, but you know what? When you got an emergency and you call 911, darn it, you need help and you need it now. So a lot of money just to upgrade the 9/11 communication system. I mean, it seems almost unbelievable that $4.5 million just for software. You know, it's not sexy to spend $2 million on software. It's a lot nicer to build swimming pools and buy fire trucks. But the committee was they were very comfortable that this was needed and proceeding forward in that regard. So $4.5 million just for 9/11 communications. And then one of the things that we are so blessed in this community, as you all know, that we have not just a fire department, but a great volunteer fire department. And if we had to pay those folks, you guys would be looking at some budget amendments real quick, probably much greater than $6.5 million. But for them, 2 pumper trucks is the big ticket item. And again, it's not like you go down to Modern Auto and just say, hey, I want that pumper truck delivered. It's a long process to start the sketching it out and then getting in the queue to when they'll build that for you. And as we always tell folks when we go, the ISO rating that Chief Halmick and Frankenberg continues to get us excellent rates on our homeowners insurance because of the quality of our fire department, because of the apparatus, because of the water supply, is very beneficial to all the folks that live in this community. Rescue boat, you know, we've seen many uses in the last year or so with having to go out on the river, and just another to keep that up. Fire alarm system in City Hall and the various buildings in that regard, $300K. And then improvements to headquarters and Station 3 and Station 4. It's been a long time since that's been done, and when you're trying to keep volunteers and folks excited about your fire department, volunteering, coming back in, and when they get done with fire, that they could have a place to clean up, shower up, get ready. So earmarking $3.5 million for some fire department renovations and doing that. Detective room, police department to upgrade that a little bit in their facility to do that. So the total projects, $25 million. We started with probably almost, I'd say, $40 million, Sandy. And we also have Craig Mueller here, one of the members of the committee. And we had a lot of discussion, and it's fair to say it was not unanimous. And, you know, this year was really challenging because the last several times I've worked with it, we had the library, of course, 16 years ago, and who couldn't argue about a library? And then last year, we were gonna get a new swimming pool upgrade. I mean, the whole community was behind that. And this one's been a little bit more just, you know, trying everybody to come forward with ideas and do that. But I think we've got a good approach. We are working hard. We want to get, as Sandy said, get the word out. And it is not a new tax. It is a continuation of the tax. And I always tell people the reason, a lot of my conservative Republican friends want to know, why are you standing up and talking about a tax? And I say I support it for a lot of reasons. It makes our community, we've done a lot of good in this community, number one. Number two, it's one of the very, very few taxes that I know of that start at the bottom and come up. Usually, it's the president and Congress telling us what they're going to do with our money, the mayor and the board of aldermen telling us what they're going to do with our tax dollars. This one is just the opposite. Community representation, community input, the ideas come up, a citizens community whittles it down and bring it to you all to put on the ballot. So it's one of the few where the people actually come up with the idea of what they want and then go out and support it. And I've also supported it because it's got a sunset on it. We're not just giving a blank check for 4 generations down the road. We have to earn the trust and the support of the voters. And I think we have with what you've seen on our report card. And we hope the voters will see it the same way on April the 7th. So I hope I'm talking to the choir here, but we'd answer any questions you've got. But that's kind of the presentation that we're going out with. If anybody has any comments or sees anything in the presentation, by all means, give me a call, let me know or whatever if we're missing something. But that's what Sandy led the charge with us. She was our chairman this year and has done an excellent job. But we had a good committee meetings, a lot of it here and a lot of input, and this is where we're at. If there's no questions, I think.
Hey, Kurt, I know that you mentioned Phoenix Center. With it being fairly new, what kind of maintenance are they going to be doing?
The item out there is the tennis courts, putting a new surface on the tennis courts. They are having problems with the tennis courts and cracking and that, so it's $500,000 earmark?
It's for post-tension concrete, which is like what they use now. They didn't use it at the time they were built, but it prevents that future cracking in the thing, and that's what a lot of them are going to. There's more that we were gonna go ahead and do for that project, but as Kurt said earlier, we had to make cuts to everything, and so may not be able to go ahead and do it all of them, but we'll go ahead, certainly go to start.
So it was really on bringing those up to date, and because of our tennis system, when the Phoenix Center was built, we didn't have a high school tennis team. We now have high school tennis in this community. Pickleball, I dare to say 8 to 10 years ago, not very many people. Now it's incredibly popular. It's a way to get people out, and it's also a way to do something on that side of the community, on the east side of the community. But I agree with what Darren said. This one was hard because a lot of these projects are not 100% funded. It's going to take some work, matching grants, working hard, maybe working with the city on some other things. But it's what the committee felt was needed. And this is also the first year we have not done anything with sewer and water. We took all the sewer, you used to have slip lining projects in there and works on water improvement. We've taken all of those out. These are strictly capital improvements. Those are proprietary funds, and so those are not included this time. So, any other questions?
Kurt? I think also on the Phoenix Park, Steve, the Parks Maintenance Building, that's going to save us a lot in transportation costs. Guys working on the east side of town, they can park there instead of bringing their vehicle all the way back out by the lake, so.
All right, I thank you very much. If there's no other questions, and
Thanks,
turn it over
Kurt.
to the transportation expert.
Transportation sales tax.
You know anything about that?
Let me find it. There it is.
Cool picture.
Okay. So what's unique this year, as the council knows, is that we'll be asking the voters to review the transportation sales tax the same day that we're asking them for the capital improvement sales tax. As Sandy said earlier, they're two separate propositions that'll be on the ballot. One thing to know is that based on the draft of the ballot that we saw that Sherry received from the county, all of the city, the propositions and even the races, even though it's not contested, will all be on the back of the ballot. So the front side of the ballot will be There's a couple of, there's at least still a state issue that I think is still on there as of this date. And then there's also, the county will have a use tax on there on the front page. And then there is also, the school district. And then you've got plus you've got the, members on the school board that are also running. So that's all on the first page. These propositions, along with the city offices, will be on the back page. So, food for thought. So, some of you have seen this before, but we're going to run through this. And again, we're doing this a lot so that if anybody wants to go ahead and view these presentations, they'll be on YouTube, and so they can go ahead and watch them at a later date. The current transportation sales tax, most of you know, is a 25-year term from 2005 to 2030. It began with the Highway 100 widening project to 4 lanes from I-44 to High Street, and that the bond payments would end in 2030. That's the reason why I had a 25-year shelf life on it. But it also gave us funds to go ahead and do local street paving and sidewalk replacement. We did highway intersection improvements. We've done some bridge and culvert replacement where needed. We've even assisted with trail projects and airport grant matching funds. Before the transportation sales tax, you had a general revenue fund, and a capital improvement sales tax actually years ago would sit there and be devoted for some of these streets, some of the major streets in town, and we would put that on there as well. So it was very crowded with all the projects that we used to have with the capital, but since we've had the transportation sales tax in place, we've been able to use it. We also used to do either one of two things. You had a special assessment on adjacent property owners for local streets. That's how the city did it at that time. And then later on, in order to get away from that, they used a cheaper maintenance system of chip and seal, which was not too popular because the general public didn't like it. It tracked into their vehicles and tracked into their homes after it was. And as we all know, it took a while for it to cure. Highway 100, back to that, it was completed in 3 phases. It started phase 1, 2 miles in front of Phoenix Center. And then you had phase 2, which was from our east city limits all the way out to I-44, and phase 3 was High Street to 47, a 1.5-mile stretch. $52 million total. It was a 50-50 cost share with MoDOT, and it cost the city's portion was $26 million in bonds, and again, as we said, paid out over a 25-year life with the half-cent sales tax. Proposed projects for the 20-year term, we came up with 20 years. A lot of this was Charles working on. A lot of our local stuff, as well as our projections for what we had improvements on Highway 100 and some of the other projects that we'll talk about. But you have major highway signal and intersection upgrades. You have Highway 100 widening to 4 lanes from High Street all the way out to Voss Spring Drive. That's been in your comprehensive plan for years. High Street extension south to Highway A. East-West Parkway extension from South Point Road all the way over to Highway A. Local improvements, you had local paving like we talked about earlier, or maintenance of streets, that was able to go ahead and use those funds. Sidewalk and ADA improvements, parking lots, we've used it for the 20% match on trail for Bush Creek. And then airport improvement cost shares, as most of you on the council know, we get 10% usually is what the local match is, but we use the transportation fund to go ahead and meet that 10% local match on all of those improvements over at the airport. So we're looking at 20 years. The big question, why renew the tax now? Well, as most of you know, that when we go through a series of approvals in order to do, especially these federally funded projects, and Charles and his staff and engineering do a great job of putting together those applications. As a matter of fact, it's rare that we get turned down on any one of our applications. And so for the most part, but they're 80-20 cost shares. That includes repaving, sidewalk replacement. A lot of the projects that the general public has seen, Jefferson Street, 3rd Street, those are the federally funded projects that we've done recently that everybody is driving on. Large MoDOT projects, you can still do the 50-50 cost share, and that leverages grant opportunities. Then you also have the 80-20 cost share for the congestion mitigation air quality. As most of you have seen, we've got intersections in town where we've got queuing are stacked up that we can go ahead and apply for these funds. If the transportation sales tax isn't there, we don't know that we've got the leverage to go ahead and be able to do that. And it's important too that all of these projects, it's on the slide, it's a 4 to 5 year timeline from the time of conceptualization of what can be done, and you've got a problem to the point of construction being completed. That's how far in advance. We don't want to be in a situation where we can't apply for funds for the years 2030, 2031, or 2032 because we're waiting for the tax to go ahead and be there. So the idea is If we can go ahead and get the voters to go ahead and give us the renewal, we can continue our programming with regards to all of our improvements that we have, especially those where we get federal funds. This is a list of all the projects that we've got from 2026 to 2030. These are in the Transportation Improvement Program through the St. Louis Regional Transportation through East-West Gateway. And you see a lot of those. I don't need to go through each one of those. That middle column, though, is the total project, and the city portion is the far right project. But you see all of these projects out until 2029 right now, we have already funded, already in various stages of approval, and these have all been approved by East-West Gateway for us to go ahead and complete. So we like to show this slide when we go around and do these presentations so everybody knows what projects are coming up in the near future. And especially when you start talking about, like I said earlier, intersections like International and 100, 5th Street and 100, or even High Street and 100 during those peak times. And Highway 47 expansion, we've got a separate slide for that. We'll bring you up to speed as far as that goes, where we're at with that. Those are all the roadways that we are able to go ahead and apply for federal assistance that are within the city limits of Washington. So not every street within town qualifies to go ahead for federal assistance. These are the ones that you see highlighted in dark red. Future major projects, again, as I mentioned earlier, what we're looking at, well, how did we come up with a 20-year term and how did we come up with the dollar amount? Well, we looked at Highway 100 to get, basically to pick it up from High Street, where we left it off, all the way out to the industrial park would be a 3.25 mile stretch. We'll get into the numbers a little bit, but the High Street extension is what you see in yellow. And then the East-West Parkway roadway, as we continue to go ahead and see the development go to the south, the necessary need to go ahead and acquire right-of-way. As a matter of fact, you have an item on your agenda later tonight to go ahead and secure right-of-way for that. So just to give you some numbers on the cost estimate for the Highway 100 improvements, it's about $33 million. It's a 3.25 mile stretch. And at worst case scenario with the 50-50 cost share, the city's share would be $16.5 million. Is it possible that we can get additional grant funds to go ahead and do it? Absolutely. But you got to start somewhere with regards to coming up with a cost amount of what it's going to be for these improvements. And at minimum, we would look at a 50-50 cost share with MoDOT. Additional projects would be Highway 100 East, the intersections. As we all know, the city worked with MoDOT to go ahead and get 4 lanes out there. Now there's been discussion about what can they do for safety at these key intersections going out there, especially I think a lot of us in town hear more about the one that's closest, St. John's Road, where the school, where you have to go ahead and use that intersection to get access to South Point School. If we have this tax in place, we can make future applications in conjunction with MoDOT to go ahead through East-West Gateway for those CMAQ applications. And again, that's 80-20 funding if there's any improvements. Or MoDOT has also talked to the city before and even had a workshop here a couple of years back about safety improvements and what they could do to each one of those intersections. So if we need to push that along a little bit further and not wait for MoDOT, which is what the city does, or what we've historically done. And by the way, there's something that we say in all these presentations. The 4 lanes from the city limits out to I-44 would not have been completed until 2025. And as we say, we don't know what the city of Washington would have looked like if we wouldn't have had those improvements, or we had to wait until 2025. East-West Parkway, again, there's a couple of stretches. That's the High Street extension that you see. The yellow is the existing road that's built. The red is what needs to be done. The blue down there on the bottom is what needs to be completed, and the yellow has been what's completed on the East-West Parkway roadway. We are working to try to make this federally funded, to make it an 80-20 cost share, and with that, the city's portion of the cost will be about $2.7 million out for all of that. High Street extension, this is just south of the Highway 100, and you see that rendering to the left is basically full build-out for that plaza. But to run that roadway through there and continue what we need to do, it's about $4.5 million. And again, if we're successful getting at 80-20, our portion will be a little less than $1 million at $900,000. Airport improvements, as I said earlier, it's important we get 10% towards these improvements, and the rest of it gets picked up by the feds and the state. We want to continue that. A lot of the improvements that we've had over there have all been with 10% funds. And these are just a list of some of the projects of what we've got lined up for construction and what could be in the future, so. But if you look at yearly cost of what all of those improvements and our 10% match would be, you're looking a little over $100-some thousand, and that's just each year for a 20-year term. Local street maintenance, to get back to those streets that don't qualify for federal assistance, you got about 80 miles of asphalt city streets. We try to pave all streets at least once within the 20-year window. Concrete streets, you got 14 miles to do panel replacement if you need to. Parking lots, as we said earlier, we use that downtown and in our park system. Sidewalks, replace our remaining sidewalks that are not ADA compliant. We follow the ADA transition plan that we have to do in order to get federal assistance. And then also it can be used for 20% of the trails, which is what we did with Bush Creek, and some of the riverfront improvements that we've got down there. Future possible congestion mitigation air quality, it's a mouthful, intersection projects. These are future ones that we see that we'll probably have to apply within the next 20-some years to go ahead and try to do improvements there, whether it's, dual left turning movements or dedicated right turning movements. Typically, that's what we've seen that helps relieve some of the congestion at these intersections. But those are intersections that we know in the future we'll probably have to take a hard look at. Cost summary, you've got a yearly cost summary. Charles broke this down kind of over 20 years with a 2% inflation rate thrown in. You're looking at about 3.6 of annual costs, and you're looking at revenue that you would see at a little bit, almost 3.8 million. So pretty close to right on. That's the reason why we went with the 20-year term. And if you look on this, we also took out Highway 47. I'll get down and explain that breakdown, because that is not subject or contingent upon the renewal of this tax. That project is slated to be under construction in 2028. So people asked about what has the city done for local streets in the last 5 years, and so I wanted to go ahead and show you this slide. In 2022, we had about $1 million for overlay. You also did part of the High Street extension that got into 22 and 23, but we also used a portion of that came out of the stormwater funds that we use. 2023 had another $1 million worth of overlays. 23 also had extension of Rabbit Trail as that development came down there. I think, you as a council, we as staff have tried to come to you and say, hey, look, these are the places where we probably need to go ahead and finally go ahead and either extend or connect these roads to meet with what your comprehensive plan has. And so that's why we've brought them to you. And you can see the East-West Parkway, there was the $663,000 for it. You had the 2nd Street, which is another local street downtown that did not qualify for federal funds. And then you also just recently, we completed the Fox Crest, which is the connection from Rabbit Trail over to the new fire station. Highway 47 expansion, again, I said we include this slide in there because we just want to explain to all those groups how this is working so far, but as you as council, we've explained, but we don't mind explaining it to you again and again for all our folks watching on YouTube. MoDOT, it's a 50-50 cost share. We did receive those 50-50 cost share funds. We got awarded that in December at the end of 2025. And then the next step was to go ahead and apply for STP funds through East-West Gateway. That application was made in February last month. Charles' office engineering got that application in. I will say this, that it is the only STP application in the mix for Franklin County, which bodes well for us. No other cities submitted anything. And then the city county, as you know, we have a cooperative agreement with them to split the 10% match, which would bring it down to approximately $700,000 for each entity. I think the way we've explained it to you and what we've been explaining it to the public, this injects another $13 million into this project on Highway 47, which the scope is from the city limits of Washington all the way to I-44. And we'd like to go ahead and get this. This would add to the $76 million that MoDOT's already got allocated towards it. If Union or St. Clair chose to go ahead and make an application maybe next year, there's still, I think, some time to do that, but I mean, that window of opportunity is closing quick, so there could be some additional funds maybe done if either one of those cities go ahead and do that, but we've done everything we could do to go ahead and add to the project. But then keep in mind, we get much more say in the design of the roadway and what we want to see. And basically, right now, the design for this, based on those cost estimates, are 4 lanes all the way as it continues. What ends at Studerman Road would continue all the way to the East-West Parkway roadway intersection, which is just north of Mid-American Coaches out there. Most people, when we give them this slide at the presentations or whatever, it's just to hammer home the idea of we're trying to stretch your local sales tax dollar as far as we can get and get every single grant that we possibly can to go ahead and help with our whole network of streets in town. So I'll let Sandy go ahead and do this slide.
So, the slide, the set of slides ends with, please vote yes, and extend the transportation sales tax. So, as you can see from going through the slides, both of the issues, there are good quality projects here, projects that will afford Washington to continue to be the great community that it is, and we're looking to the future, and hopefully our voters will see it that way too. I think our voters typically are happy with our community, and I hear a lot of good things, and so I think they just need to be informed, and you know, not everybody realizes where all these funds come from and how it all works together, but if you can talk about that and let people know how really important it is and how we really do manage the money well here in Washington is a good thing. So, any questions?
Hey, Darren, I know that, I don't know if Sandy can answer this or not, but I know that these are all cost estimates on all the projects, but from the time it gets passed to the time we break ground, do you know what the percentage of the cost of living was on top of what the price is?
I can tell you that I think and Charles might be able to answer this too. I know that when I'm going to give you an example to try to answer your question. So 47 project, I think they had built in originally when they tried to go ahead and look at that estimate, they had like a 4% inflation factor in there annually. And then, because somebody had asked the question, I think it was a little over 80 some million, that they originally talked about using for this, and then somebody said, well, why'd you drop how did the funding get lost or whatever, why are you down to 76? And it's because they dropped down to, MoDOT's dropped down to a 3% increase, I think, each year. So, we're doing like a conservative, probably 2% increase. That's why we did, to go ahead and figure out over a 20-year term. Is somebody gonna stand here in 15 years and we're spot on? I don't know. That all depends on what you come up with additional funding, what's the level of improvements that you need, et cetera. I mean, there's so many different factors as to how you can go ahead and get it up to 4 lanes. I'm hoping that, like I said, we got a local firm to give us those preliminary cost estimates, and all I can say is, Steve, is when they use that to try to go ahead and start looking at the Highway 47 project, for example, there was a modest increase from that original estimate that the local firm used to get I think we were somewhere around 12.5 million, and it's now, but they include right away. We're hoping we can work with those property owners out there, which, by the way, we've had meetings with all of those property owners that may be affected on the portion of 47, good meetings with them, but the idea is that, that right-of-way then would be donated on those, and if so, that would bring that number down closer to 13.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Report of department heads. Parks Department, change order number 1, Riverfront Trail Connection Project, Phase 2, Area 1, and Flag Plaza lighting.
Good evening. So, as many of you will recall, back in 2024 and in 2025, the city had a generous donation from Mark Tobin in the amount of $200,000. Part of that money that Mark had committed went towards our Riverfront Trail project, the Flag Plaza part of it, and that was $70,597.25. We did meet with Mark on February 19th after we reviewed the need for paving along Area 1, and you will see a map in your packet, I believe, that shows that, and then also for flagpole lighting. Mark has generously agreed to contribute the additional $69,015.45 to fund both of those that you will see on that change order. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of what those are, so Area 1 is the concrete paving and the grading on the slope that will incorporate advanced texture or enhanced texture and color to improve both durability and aesthetics. That part of the portion is $34,156. And then an additional $34,859.45 will fund the new lighting that's at the Flag Plaza. That will also add visual appeal, but it will also help with that dark sky initiative that we've talked about in the past. And then it will also help us with an internal halyard system that will help with safety for our staff when they're raising and lowering the flag. So again, we just would like to use a portion of the funds that Mark Tobin has donated to the city to fund both of these projects.
Yeah, change order is the portion that will be added to the KJU contract for the concrete. The lighting will be under a separate contract that I think you've already got under a state bid, correct? Oh, it's a cooperative or something?
Can you go to the microphone?
Oh, is it just a straight up, I mean, just a purchase for that, okay.
Yeah, we only found one vendor that could do both of the projects.
Okay.
As we looked into it. It's repurposing the poles that we have, putting new internal halyards and stuff in the poles.
I just want to be clarified that the change order is just for the portion of the concrete that needs to be added to the Flag Plaza. This other thing is under a separate contract. The only thing that they're consistent with is Mark Tobin has agreed to utilize his donations to fund both.
Questions, discussion, guys? We need a vote to send this on?
Yes.
Make a motion.
Motion by Solentrub, second by Holtmeyer. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes.
Thank you.
Unless you got any questions of any other department heads, we do have an executive session that we'd like to, but
I would
by
just
all
like to
means.
ask Charles a question, if you don't mind. I had a resident from Dawn Drive in Dawn Valley subdivision, where Dawn ends being a wide street and goes to a narrow street on the end. Is there any future plans for anything down there? Residents are saying trash pickup, snow removal, those kind of things are deterrent down there. If you park on both sides of the street, you barely get one car through. So it's just one of those, if you're all aware that, if we can just look into that and see where we at on, right away, is that a city issue? Is that something that didn't happen when they built the subdivision, et cetera? Just something to look into, if you don't mind.
So they're requesting to widen that strip
Yeah,
there where-
essentially widen the street. I think it's 6 or 8 feet that are, the telephone poles are already back. There's just no curb there.
You know how long that is?
Approximately 200 feet. I
Okay.
can't say that.
Okay.
It may be 250 without me even knowing anymore.
Well, in short, I'll answer for Charles. No, we didn't have it on a list of projects,
I
but
understand,
we can look
but,
at it. That
Again, I'd
definitely-
like to start the conversation,
Yeah,
something to look
absolutely.
into and see if that's something that, or maybe there's a why, there's not, I guess is the other side. So if we look into that, it'd be great.
Yeah, we can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions from there?
I just want to mention, not for you, but for Tony, I wasn't at the last meeting, and I don't know if they brought it up or not, but I want to give you a kudos for doing the riverfront rock and
Stabilization.
It turned out excellent. I think it's better than what we were going to even think about doing, but kudos to you guys. You did a fantastic job.
We did not mention it at the last meeting. We waited for you to come and tell Tony that.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
I feel blessed.
There you go. Tony's been waiting.
Anything else, you guys?
Motion adjourned.
No.
No,
No.
Vote to go into executive, I think.
Executive session, public vote on whether or not to hold a closed meeting to discuss personnel, legal, or real estate matters pursuant to section 610.021 RSMO 2000. Bear?
Yes.
Coulter? Stelter,
Yes.
Holtmeyer,
Yes.
Patke,
Yes.
Pepsel,
Yes.
Sullentrip.
Yes.
Okay.